Hello and welcome back to Prompt Circle, where we discuss everything AI. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the biggest updates that we've seen from OpenAI so far. So OpenAI had their dev day yesterday and they announced some awesome products, and we're going to be looking at each of these products at a very high level, but I'm going to be diving deeper in subsequent videos to show you exactly how you can use these new capabilities inside your application. Now, the very big one that they released is GPT-4 Turbo, and the biggest thing for GPT-4 Turbo is the fact that it has 128,000 tokens for its context window. And what this means is that you can fit 300 pages of text inside the context window. Let that sink in. This is really amazing. I can't even contain my excitement. This would make retrieval augmentation generation type applications much easy to build, and also it comes at a lower price. So we're going to be going through some of the other really cool things that came out from yesterday and see how they actually work. So the very first one we talked about already, GPT-4. GPT-4 is coming with 128K context window. It's coming in also with DALLE 3, so it has vision, so you can upload images. So currently, if you're looking for GPT-4 Turbo, the preview is what is available in the playground. It's called GPT-4 1106 preview. So when you go in there, you're going to be seeing exactly what it looks like. Some other cool things that they mentioned were also function calling. So now you could have multiple functions that are called directly from your LLM. So before now, you could only add one function. Now you can add multiple functions. They also introduced JSON mode, which ensures that your output is primarily JSON, which is really important when you are building applications using LLMs. For that consistent output, you need to define exactly how you expect it to come out, and typically using JSON or formats like that are the safe options because you can have predictable outputs all the time. The other really big one that they released is Assistance API, and this really is a game changer. On this channel, we've talked a lot about building these RAG applications, and we've looked at different ways of building them. And one of the biggest challenges with building RAG applications typically comes down to memory. How you manage memory, how you give some state to your application as you build it can be quite challenging. And OpenAI has solved for this, allowing you to persist these long threads, which allows you to just simply hand off all of the memory management and state management to OpenAI to work, and they will kind of manage everything around the context window constraints and things like that. So all you're doing is just simply building your chatbot with the Assistance API. And we're going to look at the Assistance API because it not only handles things like memory, it also handles retrieval. So they have built-in RAG right into the LLM, which is pretty insane when you think about it. And they've also added the code interpreter, which means you can run Python within a Python sandbox right inside your LLM. So basically, some of the capabilities that we've seen already in ChatGPT is something that is now available via the API. I can't wait to dive into Assistance API and make as many videos about how you can build some really cool stuff, because I've seen so many awesome things that you can build. And we'll dive a little bit into the playground so you can see exactly what that looks like. So I already mentioned that GPT-4 is going to be coming with vision. So very similar to what you have with GPT-3, where you can upload an image and get an analysis of the image, give it information about the real world images and things like that, and get information back. That is something that we're going to see from GPT-4. It's going to be available via GPT-4 Vision Preview. And again, we can see the prices here. I think it's going to cost about $0.00765 to actually analyze a 1080 by 1080 pixel image. We also have DALLE 3, which is now available via API. And something that I saw that was pretty cool from the event was the text-to-speech capabilities. So, and I have not really seen this level of really awesomeness when it comes to text to speech. And we're going to listen to some of these voice samples so you can hear what they look like. So let's play some of them here so you can hear them. It's pretty cool. I built an application actually yesterday just testing this out. It's pretty easy to build as well. So when you think about building a training course, when you think about building, anything that requires you to kind of convert text to speech, it's going to be pretty easy. I'm going to try this out actually for my upcoming courses. I'm going to actually use some of these capability there to really test it out, because this is pretty cool. So let's hear what it sounds like.
As the golden sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the tranquil meadow, the world seems to hush, and a sense of calmness envelops the earth, promising a peaceful night's rest for all living beings.
Wow, this is pretty amazing. One of the things I noticed when I was trying out this text-to-speech that really surprised me was how it deals with things like exclamation marks, how it deals with sort of excitement. It is very, very different from all the other text-to-speech solutions that we've seen in the past, which keeps sounding robotic regardless of what's going on. So I would encourage you to try it out, and it comes with various languages as well, so you should try it out and see exactly what it looks like. I can't even imagine or think about so many awesome applications that can be built with that application alone. Now, OpenAI didn't stop at giving us all this awesomeness. They actually came up with lower prices for higher rate limits as well, which is really awesome. So you're seeing some really interesting prices here. So GPT-4 token is 3 times, okay, I think I mentioned earlier on, it was the input tokens that are 3 times cheaper, and the output token are 2 times cheaper at $0.03. So this is actually cheaper than GPT-4, which is really awesome. And GPT 3.5 Turbo are now 3 times cheaper than the previous 16K model at 0.001, and output tokens are 2 times cheaper at 0.002. So this is just insane, like getting all these goodies at this very, very low rate. So let's dive into the playground and see some of these things in action. The playground actually got some uplifts, as you can see. I think some things have changed. So let's go back in there. So now you have this new view for assistants. So you can either sort of use your traditional chat view, which we're used to, and you can see the new GPT-4 1106 dash preview, which is basically the GPT-4 Turbo. Now, when I try to kind of expand this, it's still stopping at 4,000, so I don't know if there is something that needs to change there. So the token is still kind of maxing out at 4K, so maybe they're going to be making some changes here so they can get to 128K, or maybe they're releasing more models as we go along. So I think that was just one thing that I noticed when I was looking at it, but it's still pretty awesome. But this part hasn't changed. This is pretty much what you expect with typical GPT. You have a system, you have a user, and you can add messages and things like that. What has actually changed is the addition of assistants. And what assistants allow you to do, get this, is to build basically chatbots or conversational applications that have multiple capabilities. One, you could give it functions, so you could give it, basically using OpenAI functions, you can give it multiple functions. So as an example, if you wanted to add a few functions it can run, you can come in here and paste in your function. There's some examples of functions they have here, like the get weather function. So if you kind of are familiar with OpenAI functions, what they do basically is to generate the attributes you can use to call a function effectively. So here you have the description of your function. So let's say we're adding this function in. So we've added the get weather function, and we can also add a second function. Now this is what's new, the fact that you can add multiple functions to the calls. And what happens typically with OpenAI functions, and I'm going to make a video on this specifically when we dive into assistants, but what happens with OpenAI functions essentially is that when a query comes in, when a message comes in, it determines what function it needs to run based on the query. So for instance, if you were to ask something like, let's say, I'm going to change this over, let me change this to my prompt circle. Let's say I were to ask the question like, what is the weather in Boston. Now, what OpenAI function does basically is to determine, what output, what attributes, needs to be used to call this function. So as you can see here, you can see it says get weather and location is Boston, MA. So for you to get the weather in Boston, you need the location, and that is why it's passing this. So when you look at that function again, when we go back into the function itself and look at the actual function, the get weather function, you see that we're describing essentially what attributes we want. So the name of the function is get weather. It's used to determine the weather in a location, and the parameters associated with this particular function include an object. Inside that object, you includes a location, which is something you need to pass. So this is basically the city or state which you're looking for, and then the unit, which is either C or F. So if I actually go here, so let me just try this. If I said something like in Ottawa, now what it's going to do in this scenario, because the unit is also mentioned inside the function as a parameter, it's going to generate this attribute, which includes a location, Ottawa, and the unit in C. So when you basically, run this output, it's going to essentially get your function run. So if you had a function, for instance, that is able to call a weather service or something like that, it would have the right attributes to make that call. This is why function calling is probably the most sophisticated and powerful thing about OpenAI at the moment, because it means that you can combine the power of your large language models along with the power of any function. That function can be an API call, it can be a SQL query, it could be just about anything, right? So whatever functions you have. So when you build like really sophisticated functions and you give it a very good description, the way we saw earlier on in description for the existing functions that we have currently, then you have the ability to just simply use natural language to run really sophisticated functions, and this is really the powerful aspects of it. All right, so now let's look at other things that assistants come with. The next thing they come with are code interpreters. So code interpreters just allows you to write and run code. So if you're looking to write some code and run that code, it provides you with a sandbox which OpenAI is providing to you, and this is all via this API. This is why I'm saying this is really insane when you think about it, but basically allows you to run code. So basically, as an example, I can upload a code. So I have my code right here. I can upload it and I can say something like explain and run the code below. And when I do that, you're going to see the code interpreter, and you might have seen this in ChatGPT already. The same capabilities are there, but now we have this available as via the API itself. So when you create an assistant, you can then make these API calls. You can pass files. If you have a Python file, you can pass it and you can get it run. You can also essentially pass in your text to create the code and run the code. You can do things like data analysis on the fly. The way I like to explain it is like you have a programmer who's listening to what you're saying and writing the code on the fly, which is completely insane when you think about it. And this is what you get with the code interpreter. So you can see all the tools that your assistant's API has. It has the ability to call functions. It has the ability to run code. It also has the ability to do RAG, right? Retrieval augmentation generation, which we do right now. Typically, we go do some embeddings and things like that. Now, with OpenAI Assistant's API, you can basically pass a file to the API to do exactly the same thing you do when you're trying to convert those to embeddings and things like that. So they're really almost oversimplifying the process. So you've seen me build a lot of these applications, these RAG applications where we convert files into embeddings and all of that stuff. And in production, when you're thinking about this in production, it can be very, very difficult to build and, a little bit more complex. I think a lot of vector stores have made it more easy. So the likes of Deep Lake, Chroma, Pinecone, and the rest have made it much easy to build and use these vector stores. But what OpenAI is doing, it does seem like they are making it really easy for you to build this without a vector store. So I think that is what I'm seeing here. So as you can see here, I've uploaded a file here called expense reimbursement policy. And because my instructions does have, some idea that it should actually, process provided context, I can ask the question like, what is the policy on using your personal cars for work? And inside that document, we have something related to the use of personal vehicles for office work. Is a policy there, but this is a RAG system that is just simply accepting a file in real time, converting that file and making it available for querying. So when we run this, we're going to get back a response. So this is a response that is coming directly from this document. So inside this document is saying, as outlined in the expense reimbursement policy document provided, is as follows. I cannot say how crazy this is that they have done this, because this eliminates a ton of work that we typically have to do when you're building a RAG system. So they're providing you with RAG, they're providing you with functions, they're providing you with code interpreter. I think OpenAI is doing some really fascinating stuff here. And once you sort of finish building this, and by the way, you can see the logs and see exactly what's going on. And these are all the APIs that you're going to be sort of calling if you're building this out yourself. So this is what it's going to look like. So you can see, the concept of memory management, the way they're doing it, and maybe you hear me say this a lot when I'm building Slack application, the idea of threading messages. So you start a thread and then you pass messages inside that thread. That is essentially what they're doing. So you start a conversation, which is basically a thread, and then you pass in specific messages into that thread, and that's how it keeps track of the entire state of that conversation, which means that it has memory. So that means I can basically ask the question, what movie did you return in the original, in your last message? I can say, what movie was the movie coming back from the last result? So let's say from the previous result. From the previous result. So now when I run this, it should be able to go pick up on the message that contained the movie we brought back. So it says it was Shawshank Redemption, and there we have it. It was Shawshank Redemption that was returned earlier on. The cool thing about this is that this is all stateful. So you're not worried about dealing with memory management or kind of figuring out how to deal with how much memory are you passing in, are you, and stuff like that. How does it affect your context window? Anyways, your context window is getting up to 300 pages of text. So, I mean, I don't know if memory is going to be, so much of an issue, but of course, you want to be efficient in the way you're using memory. But we're uploading all of that to OpenAI. So I think this was the most exciting thing that they released. I'm going to be working on two things. I'm going to be working on a video showing you how to build this into something like Slack or Discord. So we're going to be showing exactly what that's going to look like, and showing and exploring all these different stuff inside Python, inside code. I've been playing around with it since yesterday. So I'm going to be having a video before weekend showing you exactly how these work. Now, once your assistant is ready to go, those assistants can be accessed right here. So you can see like all the assistants I had created, and they're right here, and you can use them at any time, and you can test out your assistant inside your playground, and it's ready to go. So if you want to learn more about the Assistance API, you can go in here and see the Assistance API and see exactly how to use it. I think they have a very clean, easy to use guide that you can follow, but never mind, I'm going to be building out some useful real world applications using this capability. I cannot wait to build these out and show you some of the cool things they have on board. Now, the final thing I wanted to show you was the text to speech. Very easy to build, pretty straightforward. So this is all you really need to build out a text to speech application, and you pass your text in there, and you can see. Let's listen to this again. It's really cool to hear this. Let's listen to it again.
The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. This simple fact has been observed by humans for thousands of years.
It's just awesome to see exactly what's going on here and some of the things that they've brought to life. Now, there's so many awesome things that OpenAI has done so far in the past year that sort of ChatGPT came out. They've been releasing some really cool updates, but this one was the biggest one of them all. And we're getting one step closer to AGI, which is their ultimate goal. I can't wait to dig deeper into some of these capabilities with you guys. Thank you so much, and talk to you next time.